GodlyOmen Sukuna's new ability is absolutely insane. A lot of people wanna call it plot armor, but plot armor isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I believe the ability makes sense in Sukuna's character and in the way it was explained. In this video, I'm going to cover this ability, how I think it works, and what I think will happen next. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, but only if you enjoy. Without this out the way, let's get into it. So in chapter 236 of Jujutsu Kaisen, we learn that Gojo has been defeated. As we see him discussing with everybody else in the afterlife, we wonder what Sukuna could have done to defeat him. We then come back to reality and see Sukuna explaining everything that happened. Also, I've seen multiple complaints about his death and people complaining about the fact that it was off screen. First of all, I kind of like the direction with the end of this fight, and I think people are missing the point here. Some people believe that the fight simply continued on and we didn't get to see it. I think whatever happened at the end of last chapter was right before Gojo's death, because as we can see, nothing about Sukuna is regenerated. He's still missing an arm, his face is still fucked up, and everything along those lines. And let me just tell you, it would have been impossible for him to fight Gojo in that state, meaning that whatever happened at the end of last chapter, the next thing that happened was that slice. But again, whether or not we like the direction is personal preference, but I think it is a stretch to say that this was lazy writing and it didn't make sense. So now it's time to explain how Sukuna killed Gojo. As we all knew, Sukuna's slashes could never get past Gojo's infinity, which is the reason why he needed Mahoraga to defeat him. And while I was right about that part before, I completely misunderstood what Sukuna's plan was. I thought Sukuna needed Mahoraga to neutralize Gojo's infinity, while Sukuna would simply kill him with something else. But Sukuna just needed Mahoraga to learn from him. And in the end, everything Sukuna did made sense, because while Mahoraga is out, Sukuna would not be able to use Dismantle, Cleave, or the Fire Arrow, because it is not possible to use both innate techniques at once. This means that while Mahoraga is neutralizing Gojo's infinity, Sukuna has no way to attack him unless he's using something else from the 10 shadows. And we all know piercing water from Maximum Elephant is not enough to defeat him, meaning that there was no way for my theory to work for Sukuna. What Sukuna did was entirely different. Basically, when Mahoraga adapts to something, it started analyzing it. With time, the adaptation process continues, and the more damage it takes, the faster it goes. After assimilating Gojo's infinity, Mahoraga was able to cut him through it. The problem here is that we thought Mahoraga simply cut Gojo because he was adapted to infinity, but in reality, he cut him by cutting space. He cut infinite space. He cut the world. He cut existence, which includes Gojo. At this moment, Sukuna realized that the nature of Mahoraga's curse energy changed at the moment of that slice. This is when Sukuna got the information that he needed, because right after Mahoraga and Nagito were both destroyed, Sukuna was not using the 10 shadows anymore. He now had access to Cleave and Dismantle, on top of the knowledge that he just received. With that knowledge, he also manages to cut existence and space, meaning that he cut Gojo completely in half. And the same reason why Gojo was not able to react to Mahoraga's slice is the same reason why he wasn't able to react to Sukuna's slice. But Sukuna's slice would have been even harder to avoid because he's way faster and stronger than Mahoraga. And now some people would say, how does it make sense for Sukuna to just learn that? We have to remember who Sukuna is. Sukuna has proven multiple times to be the best in the series when it comes to learning new stuff. After Kenjaku helped him once to split his soul into multiple fingers, Sukuna got the gist of it and was able to use it later on to take Megumi's body. After seeing Gojo heal his curse technique burnout only once, Sukuna was able to reproduce the same thing. Or even the fact that he was able to master the 10 shadows so easily. Sukuna only needs to see something once. He never needed to see anything twice to learn it, no matter how complicated it was. Splitting your soul and healing curse technique burnout are two of the hardest things in the series, and Sukuna was able to do those things after only seeing them once. After witnessing Mahoraga changing the nature of his curse energy, Sukuna simply understood how to change the nature of his own curse energy, and with that knowledge, he was able to cut through space, including Gojo and his infinity. I simply do not see what doesn't make sense here. You could say it's very easy for Sukuna, but it still makes sense in his character to learn things fast. It was knowledge that we had before and we never had any complaints about it. So why should we start complaining now that it actually has an effect on Gojo? I still prefer Gojo as a character and thought he was a better sorcerer. I simply got proven wrong and I simply gotta accept it. But to say that whatever Sukuna is doing does not make any sense is just stupid, because it has been shown to us multiple times before. There's also a bonus case that I didn't really want to include before, but I would just say it regardless. The possibility that the Fire Arrow might not even be Sukuna's technique. Don't you think it's a crazy coincidence that he used it against Jogo? It's almost like he just copied Jogo's flame ability. But don't take this one too serious because there's nothing guaranteed about it. But the main takeaway here is that Sukuna is a very fast learner, so fast that he only needs to see something once to be able to copy it. as long as it is within the realm of his abilities. Him being the strongest, anything that isn't related to an innate technique is possible for him. He is able to air hop like the evenly restriction users. He is able to heal multiple people like Yuta and Shoko. Everything that has to do with curse energy efficiency and manipulation, Sukuna knows it. I was also a bit lost at the beginning, but after simply understanding the explanations, I have no more complaints about the fact that Sukuna was able to gut him. And even though you could make a case for it, I wouldn't classify it as plot armor, because it wasn't the writer trying to save him because there's nothing else that could have been done. It is something that has been shown countless times about his character. But another thing to consider is that if Sukuna was able to do that, that would mean that any sorcerer with enough knowledge and talent will be able to do so, changing the nature of their curse energy in a way that would allow him to attack space directly. Mahoraga and Sukuna were the only one able to pull off such feats yet, and even though that probably won't be needed in the future since Gojo is already gone, or is Gojo really done? Okay, let me chill. But yeah, with Gojo out of the picture, this wouldn't be needed anymore. But I still find it cool because it means that it's an ability that is possible for a Jujutsu sorcerer. Everybody thought it was impossible for anybody to attack Gojo. Sukuna didn't just defeat Gojo through some bullshit. He showed us that there was a possibility to reach Gojo, but this is probably the pinnacle of Jujutsu, and I don't think any character is ever reaching that for the same reason that I stated earlier, the fact that he's out of the story. But now that the fight is actually over, I just have to admit it, Sukuna has won the fight. And even if Gojo somehow comes back, I think it is confirmed that Sukuna won. No matter anything you wanna say every time Gojo won the fight, Sukuna always came back with his abilities and what he had at his own disposal. Right now, Kashimo is coming to the battlefield. Let's say Shoko or Yuta saves Gojo while Kashimo is fighting. Gojo would definitely be the loser of that fight even if he is alive. Even though there was a possibility of him dying, I actually expected him to win the fight. At least him being called the winner even if he has to die. And it's a crazy flip now that you think that there is a possibility of him being alive but still being the loser of that fight. But I won't expand too much on the theory about him being alive. We'll just have to wait and see whatever happens next. I also love the fact that they paid respect to each other. Gojo in the afterlife saying that Sukuna was simply stronger than him, and he's not sure if he could have defeated him even without Megumi's curse technique. But I think people are using this information wrong. People are simply taking this to say that Sukuna doesn't need Mahoraga to beat Gojo. But I think it was just both of them giving respect to each other. As Sukuna was surely satisfied of that fight, he even complimented Gojo, told him that he would never forget about him. He even had some sort of grief, I would say, as he was telling Gojo, do not let me down. But Sukuna very well explained that he needed Mahoraga to be a blueprint to defeat Gojo. This is just both of them telling to each other that they are strong. Gojo saying that there was a possibility of him winning without Mahoraga even though he already lost, and Sukuna saying that he couldn't have won without Mahoraga even though he won the fight. I think people are simply using that information wrong. It doesn't mean that the Hyanera Sukuna was better than Gojo, but I guess it still brings an interesting question. Now it's actually kind of debatable who is actually stronger now that it has been stated. I also believe that everything Kusakabe said at the end of the chapter 235 is true. Sukuna cannot use domain amplification, his curse energy output is really low at the moment, he can't even use reverse curse technique, he lost an arm, his face is fucked up, and everything along those lines. I don't think Sukuna will be in full shape unless something happens, which is why he had to one-shot Gojo with that slice. So even though Gojo said that Sukuna didn't have to go all out, I still think Sukuna is somehow at death's door as well. Which is why I don't even want Kashimo to fight him right now. I either hope something happens that will prevent them from fighting right now, or even Kashimo waiting for Sukuna to heal on some Goku shit. But I don't really see the second option happening. I still want it to make sense for Sukuna to be able to fight Kashimo in a normal state. Because even if Kashimo wanted to wait, I don't think any other student is waiting there for Kashimo to just have his one-on-one and risk the end of the world for his own personal gain. Another thing people are forgetting is that Sukuna actually felt fear in the last chapter, and he wouldn't have been so scared if he knew that he had something to defeat him. At that moment specifically, Sukuna also had the feeling that he was going to lose. Which is also why ever since the beginning I always respected both sides. I think Gojo is a cooler character, but Sukuna was also performing well during that fight, and even last week the people that were calling the fight a mid-diff was pretty stupid. Even though Gojo has been boxing Sukuna for the past 7 chapters, Sukuna was still holding his own and he still had things to defeat Gojo at any time. Gojo never had it easy, he just had the advantage in most categories of that fight, but Sukuna was able to apply so much pressure that even Gojo thought he was going to lose. He even had flashback from Toji, from when he almost died himself. And another reason why people kept calling Sukuna a fraud is because he kept talking shit and kept getting put in his place. but now we can see that he paid respect to Gojo and showed everything that needed to be shown. I've even seen people say that they dropped the fraud allegations for that moment alone, which is what I said to a lot of people. Sukuna's trash talk during the fight was simply to either disturb Gojo or to motivate Gojo. But now that the fight is over, there is nothing forcing him to do that. He can now just simply show respect. But people would simply call it fraud talk and saying that he doesn't own up to his own word. But here we are, he said he was going to defeat Gojo and now he did it. And he even showed respect after it. I truly believe this was a great fight and both characters had an amazing performance. While Gojo was more of a straightforward and aggressive type of fighter, Sukuna was more passive and strategic. And in the end, we just had a good moment that I would call extreme diff for both of them. This fight has truly been phenomenal and I have little to no complaints about it. Both characters have shown why they could have deserved the title of the strongest, and even though people have mixed feeling about the ending, it doesn't take anything away from the fight. This fight really had the whole manga community in the chokehold for several months. Every week thousands of people would get together to read the fight. Some people would simply wait for it and read it later. Some people would read it on Twitter, others on Discord, multiple people in YouTube streams, and I'm pretty sure there were other places. I don't think there has been any recent fight that has made this much noise. Let me know in the comments what you think about Sukuna's new ability, as well as what you think the rest of the story holds for us. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. Get this video to 200 likes or any video you would suggest. You can also subscribe to my channel if you enjoy the content. I'm trying to reach 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year, but only subscribe if you enjoy the content that I put out. I appreciate y'all for making it to the end, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.